Hello, everyone, and welcome to In Time. Thank you for joining us. My name is Nicholas Lamar Soutter, and I am here, as always, with Ansgar Odinson.
Hello, hello.
And we are here with a breaking news story. We have another shooting. I'm sorry to say. I think we had been talking about what our next breaking news story was going to be, and we were going to maybe even take some bets, I think, on what it was going to be, but nobody wanted to because I think we all knew it was probably going to be this.
Yeah, in fact, we even debated whether or not to just not cover this um because of the subject, but it is newsworthy and it is important.
It is, and unfortunately, we are late. I'm not sure it's quite breaking news anymore, but I think that it's probably worth going over. There is 5 dead, 21 injured in a Texas shooting. There was a gunman. It appears that he was shooting from a vehicle. I think he was targeting shopping areas, as I understand it, and I don't know a whole bunch of this. We actually have a system for being notified when there's breaking news, and it was just delayed, and I apologize. So even though it looks like it's done, he's not an active shooter. He has been killed by police.
Oh, he was
Uh,
killed.
he was.
Hmm.
So um, we still don't have all the details. Ansgar and I were actually on another stream, and we decided that we were going to cover this, and we will bring you what we have and what we know. We, of course, just did our gun episode, so I think there's some things that we should probably discuss with this. The good news is that it is over. And
Hmm.
no more damage is going to be done, but 5 dead and 21 injured. A mass shooting. There's no official there's no official counting for what constitutes a mass shooting, but usually it's considered any shooting event where four or more are shot or killed, and this well exceeds that.
And I think colloquially we consider mass shootings a very different thing. If two
Yeah.
gangs go to war and a bunch of people die, we don't consider that generally a mass shooting. We generally consider it a mass shooting when somebody decides they're going to try and shoot as many people all at once, and usually for reasons that aren't, motives that aren't immediately ascertainable. This isn't something like just trying to get away from the police. This isn't something like, necessarily political or religious um, motivations, like, I'm going to try and take down the American government and I'm part of an organization. We usually identify it as a solo or maybe a small group that specifically aims to do harm, with, again, no real reason that we can, certainly no sane reason that we can understand. um
I think.
this did start as a routine traffic stop, I'm seeing, with police, and it turned into a high-speed chase, and then he started opening fire on people. He fits the typical profile, young, white man, roughly age 30. So that profile that we were talking about, even in our show, of these very young, very angry, directionless, particularly white men, um, that fit the profile of this special kind of violence.
Ansgar, if he had been a minority,
Hmm.
um, do you think that this would be presented the same way that it's being presented now, or not?
I do. I think that we typically, a lot of people think that, we don't call it terrorism when somebody's white, but Timothy McVeigh was called a terrorist. We label something
Mhm.
terrorism specifically when they are trying to achieve a political or religious aim. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to this is in service of my goal of bringing down Trump, and you go down and you try and shoot as many whatever as possible. That's definitely an act of domestic terrorism. um and the IRA, they are labeled and have been for years as a terrorist organization. There's a push to label Antifa as a terrorist organization, even though they're majority white. So there does seem to be this misconception in my mind that the barrier to being called a terrorist is skin color, when in fact it's motivation.
Well, I agree that technically that's the motivation, but with the nightclub shooting, that was labeled a terrorist event, and admittedly, I believe he was targeting homosexuals, but I'm not sure I would have called it
Well, because it was
terrorist, but he was.
religious. It was religious.
That's right, because he was a Muslim, and so because he was okay,
It
I'm
was in
not
the name
sure.
of Islam.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still not sure I'd necessarily have called it that, but I
I
do
think
see
it's a
the argument
gray
now.
area because you have to wonder what was he trying to achieve. Usually terrorism is about trying to achieve a goal through,
Yeah,
the terrorization of the citizens. The
yep.
IRA, you can say they were attempting to achieve, the goal of independence, Irish independence, and so on and so forth. Um, Whereas you have to ask, did he think that this would achieve the goal of, let's say, eliminating homosexuals from the American, life? I'm not. It's a much grayer area, but I can see where an argument could be made for it.
All right. Um, so what we've got here, and this is probably not actually going to be a terribly long episode. I'm thinking we're probably going to run only about a half hour.
Right.
Um, because this isn't breaking news, and you're going to have alternative sources. Normally when we do a breaking news event, we would have multiple sources. We have people we can contact who are on standby, and that we can discuss the event as it's occurring, and of course you and I can collate these sources so that our viewers can have the most up-to-date information with context, cultural context, political context. um, I think there's value to doing that now, but this isn't an urgent situation, so that's why we didn't break
Mhm.
from our previous stream. But I do think it's worth some consideration. So I think there's a couple of things I'm interested in looking into. I do know, so it started with the traffic stop,
Mhm.
and I am curious to know what his intentions were, because I don't. Do you know the grounds of the traffic stop? Was it like speeding? Was it
It was.
something
They said it
suspicious?
was routine. That's all they said.
Routine. That's a beautiful way to make sure we don't know a thing about it.
Yeah. It sounds to me like it was some kind of a random traffic stop and he just peeled out and then started opening fire. So this could be anything from he had something to hide and
Yep.
vested interest, but then why shoot at people? It's almost like he decided at some point that I'm not getting brought in and I'm just going to do as much
I that
damage as possible on the way out.
That's what it sounds like. Is he so he's pulled over. He
Mhm.
must have had the weapons with him because he didn't, go home, grab them, and so he's got the weapons with him. When he got pulled over, he probably realized he was going to go to jail if they search the car, if they just look in the back seat.
Yeah.
So, and then yeah, I think you're right. He must have decided, because there's no way he thinks he's going to, he's probably not going to make it out of it alive. And whatever, if he's afraid of going to jail, going
Mhm.
out just for having the weapons, going out and killing a bunch of people isn't going to help his cause. He's just,
Yeah.
now he's really in trouble. So clearly, I think you made the correct assessment, which is he sits there and says, okay, this is it, I'm done. But I mean, that's a staggering, and I'm concerned that this is going to be painted as a mental health issue, and there's legit, when you have and I've made this argument before, when you have a straw that broke the camel's back, everyone blames the final straw. But the truth is, every straw on the back has equal responsibility. If one of the previous straws hadn't been there, the one that did break the camel's back wouldn't do it, and you'd have to add one more straw.
You know what
So,
painted this brilliantly? The movie
who?
Falling Down. I don't know
Um,
if you've seen it, does a
I
brilliant
have. It's been a long
job
time.
of painting that picture
The
of
picture of
of the small little things that add up in a human being's life to bring them to the
oh,
point where they're just willing to cause as much damage and human suffering as possible before they check out of this life.
yeah. Um, I think that's a interesting point. I think
Mhm.
for this, what I'm thinking is, you could sit there and say it's the guns. Clearly, if he didn't have them, this wouldn't have happened.
Right.
Or you could sit there and say it's the mental health. If it sounds like if his mental health were fine, this wouldn't have happened. So they're both true. They're both arguable. But the problem is, we're always going to have mentally ill people. The question is, how do we reduce their availability to these kinds of weapons. I don't know why he's got this in his car, but again, he didn't go home and get it. So either he was planning, so I don't know what was going on,
I
but
could
this
play
isn't a
the other
good,
side of that argument and say if we were taking better care of our mentally ill, these incidences would be fewer and far between.
I agree.
Uh,
I think that's a very good argument to be made, and I'd like to see that argument made. Um, but right now we are arming our mentally ill, and we have guaranteed that every mentally ill person can get a weapon. We have guaranteed that every criminal can get a weapon. That is what the agenda of the NRA and of uh, the far right conservatives who want weapons, that's what they've done. I understand they say they just want it in the hands of civilians, and I believe them. I'm not trying to suggest that that's what they want to do, that they want to arm everybody, but because of like the gun show loophole, which they actively try to maintain. They say they're against it, and they act as if they're against it, but their actual actions, where they put the money and where they argue for the legislation, is for keeping loophole, or keeping what allows the gun show loophole to continue, which means what they want, which is everybody who wants a firearm can get one,
right.
regardless of motive. So I've got that concern. Now, I believe tomorrow is the day that a large number of bills go into effect repealing controls on guns in Texas. So
Really?
this is the day before, and
Hold on,
the,
my wife is calling the hell out of me. It must be an emergency.
all right, all right, you go take care of that.
1 second.
Yeah, so we do have a number of bills. So there were laws passed in August, earlier this month, that are set to go into effect tomorrow, which would be September 1st. This includes House Bill
It,
1143.
I need to
Yes.
break in. I'm going to leave the stream running for a second, but my wife just called me. Our car has been completely wrecked
Oh my
outside.
God.
Somebody smashed into our parked car and
All right.
completely wrecked it. So I'm going to leave the stream running. I'm going to turn off my camera. But please continue going, and when I come back,
All right.
I can end. You should be able to end the stream from the back end of YouTube, but I won't be
All
able
right.
to end the stream from this place
No
here.
worries. No worries.
Okay.
Go. Take care of that. All right. So I suppose I think what we've done is entered a bit of a Mobius strip of a show here, or this is we shouldn't be calling this In Time. We should be calling this Inception, because we now have one host in his own breaking news. We need somebody else. Is there anybody in the live chat who has a show that can contact Ansgar right now and get his opinion on the breaking news of his car? No, it doesn't look like it. All right. Well, so our one host has his own breaking news story. I'm going to finish with this. Senate Bill 535, House Bill 1387. These are bills that loosen the restrictions on how many armed school marshals a school can have, and that's, I think, something we didn't cover in our show, but is worth is worth. Should we have, how many armed people should we have in a school? House Bill 2363 allows foster homes to store firearms and ammunition in a safe, locked, and secure place, which some of these laws actually don't strike me as too unreasonable. I'm curious to think what people in the live chat feel, but let's see. Bill 535 clarifies the possession of firearms at churches, synagogues, and other places of worship, and allows for licensed handgun owners to legally carry their weapons in such places, and says in 1143, school districts cannot prohibit licensed gun owners from storing firearms and or ammunition on school property. So tomorrow, these bills go into effect. I think there's a couple more. I don't want to just go off reading them. But tomorrow, these laws go into effect. This reduces the controls on guns. They don't all seem like unreasonable bills. Some of these seem a little questionable. The NRA has been pushing back on Donald Trump, he has actually been more pro-gun control, as we discussed on the episode, on our gun episode. One of the things he did was during a live discussion, he told the NRA that there would have to be tighter controls on guns. And it is interesting because he can be, in some ways, he's just so short and straight to the goal. I really think that going straight after the arguments of the NRA and trying to understand what is realistically said and what their goals are and how to enact gun control isn't usually done. I think there's a lot of branding that moves people off of that and aside from that. And the funny thing is, because Trump doesn't usually fall for nuance, he can see that there's really only one solution to this. I don't believe this is a nuanced situation, which is why I think he's able to grasp what needs to be done. And he said it in a live discussion. He did walk it back shortly thereafter. Ansgar corrected me on our previous broadcast, which he's not here, so don't tell him. I really hate it when he corrects me. It's not that I mind, it's just that it's him. Can't I be the one who's always right? In fact, I will say, and this is just so people know, if he ever corrects me behind the scenes or anything like that, I just take credit for it. I take 95%. Our division of labor, I said this before, it's an even division. He does 95% of the work. I take 95% of the credit. And when he corrects me, it just undermines that. So please, he's gone. He's not here. His screen is black. Don't anyone tell him. Now, he has had pushback against the his policies, which have actually been towards tightening gun restrictions. And I'm curious to know what I am really anti-Trump. You all heard the gun rant where I went off on guns. I have a Trump rant where I go off on Trump more than that. I am not a fan of his. I am still wrapping my head around the fact that he and I agree on some issue, and I'm not sure I'm going to know what to do if he really steps on the gas on this and starts to rein in the NRA. And here's the problem with the NRA: there's a false narrative that what you've got is really big money on the right and little money on the left, and it's the right versus left on that. No, there are a lot of huge left donors: Bezos, Gates, Buffett. The left does have good money coming in. It gets a lot of money from Hollywood. It does. It's got less money coming in, but not by much. If I recall, it's about 85% of what you usually see coming in on the right. But there are big money donors on the right. There are a lot of political action committees, and there's more powerful political action committees that are the huge organizations, especially what the Koch brothers can do. And in fact, I'm going to write that down because I think the Koch brothers are worthy of a show, and we haven't discussed that. But I don't want to say that the right has all the money and the left is the small guy fighting the good fight with no money. They do have plenty of money on their side. Could they use more? Yes. Is it the same? No. But they're not poor, and there are rich people helping them. But on the right, the NRA donates massive money to the correct major congressmen at the key intersections of the committees that control gun legislation. And in many cases, they are the single largest donor or the second or third largest donor, depending on the district and how much control they've got. The amount of money that the NRA is able to wield to ensure that these people get elected, because in our system, if you don't have the money to run, the chances are extraordinarily small you can't get elected. It happens. It's almost unfortunate that it happens, because when a small money official gets elected, everybody points to that and says, see, it can be done. That's the same thing when a really poor black man comes up and makes a whole, huge success out of his life. Everybody says, see, racism is over. There's no such thing because one person did it. So it is possible to get elected with very little money, but it's a lot easier if you have a lot of money. And the NRA knows this, and it represents more than 60% of Americans want some form of gun control. Half of those that remain have no opinion on it or haven't been able to voice they're agnostic, as somebody might say. And then there's the remainder, which are significantly pro Second Amendment. But that minority has been able to wield a disproportionate amount of power, and that is in principle not really supposed to happen in a republic. So that's what concerns me. And I don't know what I'm going to do if Trump actually starts doing the right thing on this. I think that if Donald Trump starts to do the right thing on this, I'm probably going to convert to religion, because the end times are near, and that's just insane. Now, I am making a little more fun than I normally would in a breaking news story, because we have caught the tail end of this, and I apologize. We have systems in place so that if there is breaking news, Ansgar and I are both notified. Each of us can individually start the stream before the other one shows up. It's a little harder to end it. Ansgar's got his finger on the button and he's gone, but it's doable. But through miscommunication, two of our ostensibly one of our producers and someone else had notified us. Ansgar even had notified me, and I had been preoccupied. I apologize. I was dealing with another property that we're trying to sort some things out. So and I just didn't notice, and it wasn't until I was on this other stream that I noticed, and we missed it. So I do apologize. The good news is the damage isn't as bad as it could have been, and I'm really sorry when that's the good news. 5 people dead. There is a police officer. He's been injured, and it looks like the last I've checked. And the other thing we really would like to do is to make sure that when we are giving you news, it's not speculation. I mean, we'll speculate. We speculated as to his motives and what pulling him over did, but we'll let you know what's true, and we're not going to sit here and guess too much. But the reality is, right now we're a little handicapped. We were literally in another stream, and Ansgar is gone, so and we are missing a producer, so which is fine. This isn't an urgent story, but during one, you will see what you saw on our last breaking news, and we'll be able to keep up with it. And if Ansgar gets into an accident, or his wife gets into an accident, he's going to have to say, "Sorry, honey, YouTube is more important." He and I are going to have a talk about priorities. Actually, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to have a talk with Growly Bites, his wife, who is called Growly Bites for a reason. So I'm not going to talk with her, and you're not going to see Ansgar again for a little while, because I'm not going to make that. If you guys listen, we have people in the live chat. If anyone in the live chat is willing to, well, I'll get you her contact information, Ansgar's wife's contact information. Contact her and say, don't let Ansgar leave the show. If you're giving birth, if you've been in a car accident, whatever, he'll get to it, but we need him. And you guys do that. Her name is Growly Bites. She's got that title for a reason. Good luck. But on my happy, you can super chat. We've got the super chat. It may not be in the link, but if you'd like to super chat, I don't have access to the back end. I will do my best to deal with it. But you could super chat, or you could contact Ansgar's wife. I think both ways are just positive ways of supporting the stream, and just say, look, he's covering almost breaking news. All right. So, and I will. I think there's nothing I've quite yet seen in the live chat. I am watching one of the chats. I can only be in one live chat at a time. So there is nothing that I see there necessarily. The Democratic
All right,
Party
I'm
is a
back.
mess. And he is back. And so I think at this point, nobody should tell Ansgar what I was talking about while he was gone. It will be our little secret. We're all glad you're back.
Thank you. It was somebody ran into an entire string of parked cars, and there were 2 cars between me and whoever plowed into them, and my car, a big, kind of bigger SUV, got completely sandwiched.
Jesus.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Wow. Well, I'm glad nobody was injured.
Yeah, nobody
Let
was
me
injured.
let me. All right. So we're actually, I think we're reasonably close to wrapping up. I do want to bring in some more information if we have any. What we know so far, and I've actually closed that window. It was 5 dead. I think it was 21 injured. One of them is a police officer. It looks like he's going to be okay, but again, I'm not in a state where I can
Yeah.
testify to that. I apologize that we're not quite as solid on this story as I would like.
Yeah, I'd have been out there in social media getting all this stuff, but sorry, guys.
Well, no. Well, don't apologize. Real life does happen. I think so far we seem to be on top of it. We have discussed a bit about. I mean, I'd like to understand more. I know the NRA has. If you could look into that, actually, unless you're doing something, there is a video of the gunfire.
I saw several videos. Do we want to put them up?
Let's put one up if we can, and
right.
take a look at it.
Give me a second. First thing I want to share is just a cultural thing. I know that both of us are pro gun control guys, but this is the kind of thing that, in my mind, hurts gun control advocates. This, because I dream women will one day have the same rights as guns. And I responded to this, and I said, so you dream of a day when women are property and must be kept in a bag when in public?
Oh.
I think, listen, I understand what they're trying to say, but this is a terrible comparison. You don't say you want women to have the same rights as property. Ever. Don't do that. It's bad. It's a bad argument. This is going to get more backlash. I mean, it hasn't hit the backlash yet, but it will get more backlash than anything else, and it bothers me. All right. So let me see if I can find video of the. I had it before.
That's all right. Work on that. We talked about the NRA as a political action committee and their influence on Congress and how they've been able to prevent organizations like the CDC, whose job it is to study what's killing Americans, really. I mean, that's principally their job, is to study what's killing Americans. They want to study guns because guess what? It's killing Americans. It's killing a number of them. It's killing at least as many as die in car accidents. And here's the interesting thing. It used to be that as a percentage of the population, a great many more people would die in car accidents. There was a lot of it. The CDC studied it and said, wow, you know what you could do? You could put in seatbelts. And just that action, requiring seatbelts, would save a tremendous number of lives. We put in seatbelts and we cut the mortality rate by more than half just doing that. That's before airbags and anything like that, just putting in the seatbelts. Now, all the CDC wants to do is the CDC doesn't want to take away guns. What they want to do is they want to study what guns are doing and are there any ways, even if it's keeping the guns, but doing something like the adding of the seatbelts, doing something that would, is there something that nobody's thought of yet that could do this? But the CDC has lost most of their funding to study it and has been told that they cannot publish results that could be interpreted politically, since any result is necessarily going to side towards one direction or another. It's going to be political. They're aware of that. That's why it was done that way. They're saying that you shouldn't have politics in the science, and they don't. But there is no way, if they reach a conclusion, if they did, I'm not saying they will, I have no idea. They're trying to study it. If they reached the conclusion that all the guns should be removed from this country, and that's just what the science says, it's going to be called political. They're going to lose even more funding, and they're going to be breaking the law according to congressmen. And since you can sit there and spin that any way you want, that's why they won't do these studies, and that's why they can't do these studies. And it's deliberate. It tells me that the NRA has some idea of what they're going to find, which is we have to control the guns. If they weren't sure that that's what they were going to find, they wouldn't be trying to stop the research. What kind of research is this? The kind of research to figure out how to save lives. That's their only goal. And they don't want it funded. Ansgar, what have you got for us?
All right, so here's one. See if
there's a shooting going on in Odessa, Texas. Oh God, there's shooting right there. Oh, he hits the barrier. The cop just hit the barrier.
What is that?
Get out, get out, get out.
Get down, get down, get down, get down.
Stand still. He's shooting him,
There?
he's shooting him.
Oh,
Oh, he's killed him, he killed him.
lose Ansgar.
No,
That was-
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, he's shooting him
I was
up.
thinking that-
He hit the barrier.
It's moving. Sorry, I didn't see it moving on. The screen.
I'm just being quiet so that they can hear what's going on in the video. We haven't yet
sorry.
worked out a system where you can hear what I play
Okay.
yet. We're working on it though.
Yeah, we need to work out a system where you can also say, Nick, shut up. But it has to be a system that I would listen to, because I think half the time if you said, Nick, shut up, I'd be like, oh, fuck off. I'm going to say what I want to say. All right, so if you're going to play video, let me know, and I will shut up. And what I'm going to do is, I have a notepad here, and all the things I want to say, especially the nasty things I want to say about you, I'm just going to keep, because I think you're going to show video with audio just to shut me up. So because I know you don't want to lose any of the precious nuggets of the things I have to say, I'm going to keep a list. Because that's what our audience wants. I don't want to. Our audience wants that.
Well,
so
of course.
that's what I'm going to do.
Of course.
Just
So
all right.
that
so
one we
did I
we
interrupt
could
it?
see.
Okay.
Yeah, that one we could see a police officer running into the barrier. We could see the person driving by, and we could hear the gunshots. And the guy's like, "Oh, he killed him." And we don't know if he actually killed him or not, because the guy was too far away. He could have just hit him. But yeah, that was that. And I've got another video here. It says video apparently from scene of mass shooting in Texas. We'll bring this up, and I'll center it here. And this one says strong language. So, yeah.
Oh, what the fuck?
Oh my god.
They shot him. They shot him.
Oh my god.
They're shooting right now. They're shooting.
Honey. Shit.
They just shot him. They just shot
They
him.
just shot him.
Oh, look at all the people.
Oh my god.
That's him in there. That's
He was
him.
in a U.S. Postal.
They killed him.
Oh shit.
Oh my god.
Okay, so it looks like this is the scene of them ending the gunman's life, actually.
All right.
That's what that scene
All right.
is. Oh, wow.
We had spoken about mass shootings earlier. What most people don't understand is that, hold on, I'm sorry, I've got multiple sound channels coming in. What most people don't understand is, again, the mass shooting is 4 or more injured or killed with a gun at one time. That's what they call a mass shooting. And so when I say there are more mass shootings per year than there are days in that year, people sit there and say, oh, no, there's not. We only get a mass shooting about once a month. Well, no, you need to understand it depends on what the media is going to sensationalize. It depends on how many are injured or killed. It depends on the news day, whatever. And there's so many, they don't bother to report them all. They just don't.
They only report on the ones that are sensational.
Yep. So if there's more than one a day, Ansgar, what does that tell you about this shooting, do you think? Because I'm trying to do an end run here, and
I would say that it is one more sensational because he's killing more people.
That's true.
It's sensational because of the way in which he committed the violence.
Yeah.
And and the people that it's affecting. When you have a poor, disenfranchised community and they are shooting each other, that does not make the news like one crazed gunman shooting a bunch of middle to upper class people.
I think that's an excellent observation. There have been, I think, in this year so far, 263, 264 mass shootings, which is less than the number of days in the year, if I'm doing my math correctly. It should be. So what do you think that might mean?
I'm not sure.
This shooting is not the only one that has just happened.
Yeah, my wife said there was another one in Texas even.
Oh, that's not the one I'm thinking about.
Oh, wow. So there's even another.
There may be 3 now. At least 10 teens injured at a shooting at a high school football game in Alabama.
I'm telling you, man. It's exhausting.
Yeah, this isn't breaking news either. Actually, we're on the tail end of this one. It looks like they were actually both happening simultaneously. This one hasn't made the news much either because it's a little hard to cover this one when you're covering that one. And if there is, in fact, a third, oh, nice. Let's see. Everyone, it looks like, is going to make it. It's a mass shooting because you have 10 and they've all been shot. It looks like every one of them is going to survive, but it's 10 teens injured at a shooting at a high school, a football game in Alabama. I haven't done the math yet on the time zone, so I can't get the time correct, but it looks like it was ostensibly 3 or 4 hours ago, which is around the same time as this one. So we've had 2 simultaneous mass shootings today, and I wish I could tell you, again, we were going to try to cover this. I'm not going to cover all the mass shootings that happen in this country because I'd like to sleep, and I'd like to meet with my family and maybe grab a burger, and I'd like to produce some other shows. So we're not going to cover all of them.
No.
We're covering this one because it had some interesting components, including the mental health issue. It wasn't live anymore. In general, we'll cover them when they're live if there is something that we can contribute in terms of commentary and engagement and helping our audience understand what's going on. And I think we did that very well on the last one, especially for our first episode before we actually had a channel. And that's what we're going to do. But there's now 2. If we were going to spend an hour and a half, 90 minutes on each of these, that would be 3 hours a day on nothing but mass shootings. And I wish I could tell you something new. We all know that the problem is we're not controlling this. We all know that the problem is there's absolutely no will to control this from the people in Washington. And in the cases where there are the will, they can get wiped out by a very small minority of people. And I think you're right. And I'm glad you keep reining me in on this. I would like to get rid of all the guns. I really would.
Yeah.
I'll take any solution that works.
I just want them licensed and have it more. I want 2 things to happen. I want the guns licensed, and I want them want it to be difficult for people like this to get a hold of guns. And
we can't even do that. We can't even do that.
No, we can't. You know what happens is every single fucking time, and this really pisses me off, and it's happened a bunch in my state, is to appease the people. They pass some meaningless bullshit legislation like, oh, let's ban bump stocks, let's ban magazines over a certain capacity, and it's so fucking stupid, it's so fucking useless. You know what I mean? Oh, so he has to reload more often before killing the same amount of people. You've inconvenienced the fucking killer. Shut the fuck up with that. Get something real fucking done. Get the NRA the fuck out of there. Let's pass some of the shit. There's shit that people all over this country are willing, like the vast majority of people, right wing and left, are willing to accept as far as common sense gun reform and gun control. Let's get the NRA out of this shit and do that. At least let's start with the shit we can all agree on, like the background checks and the goddamn licensing. You know?
Yep.
And then we need to address what's pissing off so many young men in this country. And I think a big part of it has to do with, and I think we need to do a show about this, the role of masculinity is completely undefined in this country. And a lot of men feel like they have absolutely no place. They don't feel like they have value or use in this society, and we need to figure out what the role of masculinity is going to be moving into the future, because it's not going to be the same thing that it was in the past. So we don't need to kill tigers with our bare hands anymore. We need a new role, and right now we're not giving that to young men.
I think that's an excellent point. You've actually alluded to that 3 times in the past couple of days. And I think that's something that just isn't taken seriously enough or understood. So we're going to make sure we cover that. We're also going to cover the Koch brothers, which was something that I had discussed before too, because of their staggering influence, and possibly also Fox, just the media, Rupert Murdoch. But we're going to cover those. We're going to cover all media influence from the 3 major networks and how they can influence everything. But just even Rupert Murdoch, I think, and certainly the Koch brothers are worth covering. The gun show loophole, in case people don't understand it, what it means is that there was a worthwhile notion that, look, if you're going to be a company selling guns, you should do background checks and you should do fingerprint and all this other stuff. But what happens to the average Joe? I've got a pistol, and I work on a farm. I got a pistol. Somebody comes up to me and says, my neighbor comes up to me and says, listen, I wanted to have a gun for X, Y, and Z reason, and I know you were looking at getting this water purifier or whatever for your farm. You want to trade, or will you just sell me your gun for $50, something like that. That guy can't do it if he doesn't have internet. If he's just some farm guy and he's just and there are plenty of people out there who aren't connected to YouTube. He can't do a background check. He's not qualified to do a background check. He wouldn't know how to do it if he's just one single guy selling a gun to his neighbor. And we have to deal with that situation. I don't think he should just be allowed to do it. You should be allowed to sell any of your property to anybody without having to do these background checks. So there's an exemption in all of the background check legislation that says unlicensed gun sellers who sell
I'm a professional gun sniffer.
I'm a professional gun smeller.
You bring me your gun and I'm just like,
oh yeah. That's not regular gunpowder. I don't know what was what was that gunpowder? Oh, that's the Chinese stuff. They know how to make gunpowder, man. That is some good gunpowder. This gun's been fired like 4 or 5 times, like in the last couple hours too. This is fresh gunpowder, dude. So what happens is, because an individual can sell a gun to just about anyone he wants to without having to do the background checks, so that private individuals can just do whatever transactions. If you want to sell your gun to somebody or you should be able to, and I guess that makes common sense. But of course, what gun companies are doing is they're selling guns as unlicensed individuals, and there's no way to really enforce that a person is a person and not the company. So a company will act as a person at a gun show where this loophole has the sort of most efficacy. And a company that sells rifles, thousands of rifles, guns, so on and so forth, act as an individual, and they treat that sale as an individual between the person who's physically selling the gun and the person getting it, meaning they don't have to do background checks. So they can sell an AR. My brain is just not, what is it, AR-14?
You're thinking AR-15, the Armalite rifle.
Yes, thank you. They can sell an AR-15 without doing a background check because of this. There is no weapon that I'm aware of, including the AR-15, that does not fall under this loophole, which means the companies can sell.
Bring up a couple things here, though. People do need to stop bringing up the AR-15, and there's a good reason for that.
Okay, let me finish with the loophole, and then get a notepad, write it down, and then you're like, Nick, here's the 30 reasons why you're wrong, and then I'll write down the 30 reasons to ignore everything you just said. Now, the gun show loophole allows these companies to sell any weapon to anyone, including in states that prohibit the gun. So there can be a state that bars that gun from being in that state, and they've had troubles with this in Illinois and Massachusetts, where the gun, you can't sell that gun in that state, you can't buy that gun in that state. But at a gun show, if it's a private sale, they can do it. So the states that are trying to ban these weapons, gun show loophole destroys practically all the laws, and it's used a lot. It's not used completely ubiquitously, but it is used a lot. So people need to understand, when I say the gun show loophole, I'm talking about a really huge loophole that just changes everything and ignores almost every legislation we have in place. So whatever else we add is meaningless until we fix this, and the NRA has done everything they can to keep it.
Okay.
Yes, Ansgar, yeah.
Okay, so a few things. First of all, if we changed how guns changed hands between individuals, that would close that anyways. All we'd have to do is say that you couldn't sell, no matter how a private of an individual you are, you can't sell. It is illegal to sell your firearm unless they have the appropriate license for that firearm. Period. End of story. Second of all, the people are arguing about ideologies, and like one person says, it's only the right-wing ideology that promotes violence, which is Complete bullshit.
Oh, Jesus, I wish that were true. I wish
yeah.
that were true.
We could
It
end
would be so
violence
much easier.
overnight if that were true, but I'm sorry.
Yep.
Extremism exists on both sides of the political spectrum, and extremism often, not always, but often promotes violence regardless of what side of the political spectrum you are on. And neither side is inherently one of the first things that one of the easiest paths to a truly violent and horrible, oppressive ideology is to think of your opposition, your other side, as inherently evil, as inherently violent, inherently bad. Just don't fall into that, please. Someone asked, name one left-wing shooter. There have been several left-wing shooters recently, including the Vegas shooter was a left-wing guy.
Yes.
So is right now in this moment the right wing in America more prone to gun violence? When you talk about the extremes, I would say yes. Not more prone to violence, more prone to gun violence when you talk about the extremes. That I'm willing to concede. The next thing is the AR-15 is
before we get into that, I do have one quick question for you, Ansgar.
Yeah.
Do you know what the largest, not the largest, but the most active terrorist organization in the world is?
No, I don't.
Greenpeace.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
They commit the most acts of terror of any organization in the world. Are they left or are they right?
They are majority left wing. Vast majority of them are left wing.
It's the largest in Europe and the U.S. They are considered by the FBI to be the largest terrorist organization. Not the largest, actually, but they are in terms of
one of the most
destruction
active.
that they do. Yes,
Yeah.
one of the most active that commits the single most number of terrorist attacks. It's Greenpeace.
Mm-hmm. There are some people who
Just
consider some of the more radical elements of Black Lives Matter to be a terrorist organization who have murdered police officers and things like that. So, you know, left and right are both just as able to commit violence. And there are other historical things we could bring up to highlight that, but let's not get into that right now. The next thing that I would like to bring up is we need to stop talking about the AR-15. The AR-15 is no different than a million other different models of rifle on the market. The difference is it looks scary. It's used in the movies. It has a military look to it. It looks scary. And the problem is that pro-gun people know this. They understand this. And when we keep bringing up the AR-15, they roll their eyes. They immediately think you don't know what you're talking about when it comes to guns, because in reality, the civilian issue AR-15 is just a rifle like any other. It's just got a scary shell on it. Now, is one trigger pull, one trigger pull, one trigger pull, but there are a lot of rifles like that. And so you're better off just merely talking about semi-automatic rifles. You know what I mean? In general.
I think that's a valid point. I do think the AR-15 has some things that make it one of the more powerful rifles on the planet. But even if that were true, I think your point would still be made.
Yeah, I mean,
discussing one rifle doesn't help.
There's honestly, Desert Eagle as a pistol is more powerful than the civilian issue AR-15.
Oh my God, really?
Way more powerful. Vastly more powerful. A Magnum revolver, vastly more powerful.
Kawesa, who has I think that's how I pronounce it. I think he's the South Korean. He has he's donated to a couple super chats to the to us to the GDC, which we appreciate. He did make an interesting point here. I want to see someone to try to kill 54 people in 11 minutes with a pillow. That's a good. That's an interesting. My wife has tried to kill me in 2 minutes with a pillow, but I mean,
my wife nearly killed me in her sleep with just her hair. It got down my throat, so you know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm gonna remember that little gem. I'm holding that one in my back pocket. All right. So let's see. Was there anything else you wanted to cover? I know you had a number of them. I think that's an excellent point about the AR-15. Anything else?
No. Even if it's true, I just think that continuing to talk about it just it's lost its effectiveness. You know what I mean?
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So just in general, Because I am pro some level of gun control. In fact, I think my level of gun control is fairly leaning on the control side, pretty heavy. But
I would concur. Yes.
yeah, but I want to see the arguments be effective. Um, Other than that, no, I don't see anything. I've been looking. There's lots of videos. I mean, there's this one got videoed to hell. We could sit here all night playing videos, but I just don't
Yeah,
think
that's
there's
not.
anything more to say about this other than it's tragic. We know what's going to happen. There's going to be an uproar for about 8-9 days. One side, end guns now, get the guns now. The other side saying stop politicizing tragedy. Then comes out the mental health and the this and the that, and it's not the guns, it's the this. Yes, it's the guns, and then it all goes away, and we just wait for the next one to show up and do it all again. Do I sound disillusioned? It's 'cause I fucking am.
Well, I think it's. We were just on a stream where you were the most idealistic of anyone, and if that's where you are, that I think speaks a lot. I think that's where all of us are.
Yeah.
And all I could say while you were gone was really the only thing I can say is that hey, at least it wasn't more people. And I mean, as mass shootings go, hey, as far as any day where you're going to have a shooting in the U.S., this was a decent one. And I don't mean to, I don't want to make fun of 5 dead. There are 5 families and this wasn't in an area where you'd expect. This was he was targeting shoppers.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to wrap this up. I think we've said everything we have to say.
Hold
I'm
on,
glad
I
we
want to
were.
address this one last
Please.
thing. Lady Skeptic says, "Oh my God, are you serious? Tell me who's the leader of Antifa? Is Antifa on Fox News every week? Is our president pushing anti-fascist rhetoric? Quite the opposite, really. Antifa, listen, there have been a lot, including the IRA, of terrorist organizations that have done their best to be as insular as possible, in which they dissolve themselves into many different pieces. Where they organize is online. Of course, they don't have one singular leader. First of all, they're communist. They're a communist organization. How could they possibly have a singular leader? What they have are chapters. You know who else was a goddamn a terrorist organization? The Hell's fucking Angels. And guess what? They didn't have a single leader. They had chapters.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But when they all show up in the same uniform, with the same symbol, with the same
Ideology.
goal to cause violence, they're together. They're organized. They are. Now, are they as dangerous as the Proud Boys? No, they're not using guns yet. But they are assaulting civilians. They are causing property damage. And in other places of the world, they are far more dangerous. We're talking full-on riots and burning people's property to the ground.
All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we got a chance to get a bit to the live chat. And like I said, when there's breaking news, we'll cover it, and you'll get the full story and context. And we've done that, I think, with this reasonably well. The story's over. Another one has started and is over. So that would be 10, 5, 2. So that is 36 people shot today in 2 different incidents that I know about, and those are just the big ones.
That's not
There's
the gang violence. That's not the little interpersonal dramas.
Yeah. So there we are. Thank you all for joining us. We will have our regularly scheduled stream on Monday. That's going to be with the Name Dragon on polyamory, open marriages, and the death of the American marriage. We're going to have. I'm really thrilled about this. I like Jim Majors very much, and those of you who know who he is I know I'm going to see you guys on Wednesday, because you want to. He's a good guy, but he's got something special for us. We're going to see him on Wednesday, and he does talks about biblical prophecy, and he's got some things to discuss with us, and I've talked with him about it. I think it's going to be great. And then on Thursday, we're going to be discussing. Is that corporations, Ansgar? I'm sorry, I've spaced
On
it.
Thursday we were doing the environment. We were doing global warming.
Oh yes, and I think we've got a special guest for that. We do. Who
Yeah.
have we booked? Okay, well, we can discuss that later. This isn't the time now anyway. But thank
Yeah.
you all very much for watching and for joining us. I am sorry to be such a downer on that's a great thing for ratings, is to be a downer, but we appreciate your time. You can go anywhere else and you could be doing anything. Thank you for coming to us, and we will try to always put a story in context, and as much as I kind of hate to say it, we do look forward to seeing you next time, so thank you.